So imagine this, you're with a group of people, chatting, conversing, and someone turns to you and says, "What are you thinking about?" And now everyone's attention is focused on you, which is, of course, the ideal condition for speaking. Here's what they don't know: you had four things to say in the last 10 minutes. You composed each of them, checked them, weighed whether they'd land in the conversation. And by the time each one was ready, the conversation had already moved on to something else. So you said nothing, again, and they assume you didn't have anything to say. If you're one of these people, you already know the strange part. It isn't that you can't talk. You can talk for 2 hours to the right person about the right thing. It's that in the room, with the noise, something in you goes still. But by the end of this video, you're going to understand what's actually happening when you go quiet. And the part that might surprise you is that it is not a small signal. It's a bigger one, arriving faster than you can make sense out of. The easy explanation is shyness. You're quiet because you're anxious or insecure, or you don't have anything worth adding. Build some confidence and the words will come. That story is tidy, and it collapses the second you look at the research, because shy, introverted, and quiet are three different things, and people use them as one word. Shyness is fear of being judged. Introversion is a preference for lower stimulation. Quiet is just a behavior. You can be quiet without being either of the other two. And plenty of quiet people are perfectly comfortable. They're simply not talking. So, what's actually going on? There's a temperament trait, measurable in babies 4 months old, that predicts adult quietness decades later. And what it measures isn't a lower response to the world, it's a higher one. In the 1980s, a Harvard psychologist named Jerome Kagan started running an experiment on 4-month-old infants, long before personality, before language, before any of it could be learned. He'd exposed them to something new, an unfamiliar toy, a recorded voice, a cotton swab dipped in alcohol held near the nose. Most babies took it in calmly, but about 1 in 5 reacted hard, arching their backs, pumping their arms and legs, crying. Kagan called these infants high reactive. Now, if you were guessing which group grows up chatty and which group grows up quiet, you'd probably guess the loud, thrashing babies became the loud adults. It's quite the opposite. Kagan followed these children for years. The high reactive infants, the one who reacted most intensely to novelty, were the ones who became the cautious, watchful, quiet children, and later, the reserved adults. The calm babies became the talkers. Let that sink in, because it inverts the whole story you've been told about yourself. The quietness isn't a low signal. It's what a high signal looks like from the outside. A nervous system that registers more of the room, more faces, more shifts in tone, more of everything happening at once, doesn't have a lot of spare capacity left over for casual output. You're not under-responding to the room, you're over-receiving it. And this isn't a story about babies. In 2003, a team including Carl Schwartz and Kagan brought some of these subjects back, now in their 20s, and scanned their brains while showing them unfamiliar faces. The adults who had been high-reactive infants showed immeasurably greater response in the amygdala, the brain's novelty and threat detector. 2 decades later, the same wiring, still reading the room harder than everyone else in it. But, and this is the part that makes it a trade rather than a superpower, there's a cost, and it isn't the one you'd expect. You'd assume the cost of being quiet is being misunderstood. It's worse than that, and it's better documented. Groups don't measure contribution by what you say. They measure it by how much you say. There's a well-studied finding in organizational psychology, sometimes called the Babel hypothesis. Researchers put people into small groups with no assigned leader, let them work, and then asked everyone who emerged as the leader. The strongest predictor wasn't intelligence. It wasn't expertise. It wasn't the quality of anyone's ideas. It was speaking time, the quantity of talking, how much airtime a person took. A 2020 study by Neil McLaren and colleagues tested this directly and found that sheer volume of speech predicted who the group saw as the leader, largely regardless of what was actually in the speech. Sit with that for a second. The room isn't evaluating your ideas and rejecting them. The room never gets to your ideas. It's running a much cruder calculation. Who filled the most air? which means the quiet person in the meeting who was right isn't losing an argument, they're losing a word count. And here's the design flaw that keeps it running. The high reactive system is doing more processing per second of conversation, more faces, more tone, more of what might land wrong. So, the internal check on any sentences takes longer. But conversation doesn't wait. The window for a comment is a few seconds wide. So, by the time your sentence has cleared review, the window has closed. And you don't get to say, I had something 4 exchanges ago. You just carried it out of the room. Do that 100 times and something quietly ratchets. The threshold rises. If a thought has to be that good to be worth the risk of mistiming it, then most thoughts don't qualify. And a thought that doesn't qualify never gets practiced. The talkers aren't better at this. They're just running a looser filter and getting 1,000 more repetitions than you. You didn't get a quieter mind. You got a stricter one in a room that only counts out loud. But temperament isn't the whole story because some of that filter was not installed at 4 months old. Some of it you built. Think about what happens to a child who is a little slower to speak in a room that isn't waiting. You get interrupted. You get finished for. Someone answers on your behalf because you took a beat too long. Someone tells you that you're too sensitive or too serious or asks why you're being weird tonight. None of that is cruelty. Most of it isn't even noticed by the people doing it. But you notice and you learn correctly that a sentence released too early costs something. So you start checking. And the checking works. It does protect you. There's a small editor in there now. It reads every line before it's allowed out. Is this the right moment? Is this too much? Will this be taken the way I mean it? And the editor is good at its job. It's just slow. And it was hired a long time ago for a room you're not in anymore. So you sit in a room full of people who like you, who would be glad to hear from you. And the editor is still working the way it worked when the stakes were real. That's the thing nobody sees. Your silence isn't emptiness. It's a stack of drafts. Every one of them written carefully for people who would have loved to read them and never sent because the moment closed before the edit was done. You are never the person with nothing to say. You are the person still checking whether it was safe to say it. And you're allowed to let some of it through unfinished now. Not because the editor was wrong, because the room changed and nobody told it. So here's the everyday version. Someone will say, "You're so quiet," to a room of 30 people, thereby solving the problem. You'll think of the perfect response to a conversation. In the shower, 4 hours after it ended, fully formed, beautifully worded, completely useless. You'll be having genuinely the best time of your week, and 3 separate people will ask if you're okay. You'll say one sentence after 20 minutes of listening and the room will go silent, like a horse just walked in. And you'll get described as mysterious and deep by someone who doesn't know you were at the exact moment thinking about a sandwich. So, what's the thing you were going to say but the conversation moved on before you could? Say it here. Take as long as you want. There's no timing in the comments. So here's what it all comes down to. Being quiet was never proof that you had less going on. It's what a high reactive nervous system looks like from the outside. A system taking in more of the room than the people talking in it, and paying for that in speed. The world happens to score a contribution by volume. That's a real cost, and it's worth knowing it's the room's measurement error and not your deficiency. It doesn't mean force yourself to talk more and hope. It means noticing that the editor is still applying standards from a room you left, and the most of the sentences it's holding back would have been welcomed. You don't have to become loud. You just have to let a few drafts out before they're finished. The goal was never to talk more. It's to know, finally, that the quiet was never the absence of something. It was the sound of something taking its time. If the way your mind runs these patterns pulls at you, there's a video right here on people who overthink everything. The same careful machinery running where nobody can see it. And if you want more of this, subscribing takes about 2 seconds and requires no talking at all. Either way, thanks for being here.